is down, but they're looking for the killer blow. That's it, back of the end zone. Dagger! He's looking. Jamil's coming. He's moving. He's got him. He's got him. It was caught, but Jed has called the sack. Incomplete. He called the sack. It's 2 points to the Hammerhead. An unbelievable sack there by Jamil. This is the last game of the day. It's caught and it's in. It's a touchdown.
That's it.
It's a touchdown. The last play of the game. The clock is at zeros. That's it. Your Swansea Hammerheads are advancing to the Division 1 final, having knocked off the 2 seed and having knocked off the 1 seed. Alan Young, you look absolutely stunned.
What do you mean by live? Genuine live?
Yes. We're broadcasting.
Hello, radio!
And now, a new episode of The Way We HNC It. Hello, welcome back to another episode of The Way We HNC It, your home for GB flag football coverage this year ahead of the World Championships. And in the build-up to such an excellent event, I am joined by not one, but two very special guests. It is Alan and Dean, your Team GB head coaches. Woo, yeah! Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are you both?
Yeah, very
Good.
well. Very well.
Very well. Good. So as we, I guess, pull the curtain back, at time of recording, this time next week, your first day at the championships will have reached its conclusion. How do we feel? You know, we'll start with you, Alan. How do we feel about that particular circumstance?
I mean, it's fine, but at this point we'll have played Georgia and Sweden, and hopefully we'll be 2-0. And at that point, that should almost definitely guarantee qualification for the last 16. And it'll have been a good day. And after months and months of planning, it will be nice to just bloody play some football. So very excited about it. But yeah, Georgia and then Sweden. It's our first day. It's exciting.
Georgia and Sweden. Yeah, day one. And yeah, Dean, do you echo those sentiments?
100%. Yeah, we've got Cheshire and Israel first day, and I can't wait to get out there and play some football. It's been what seems like an age since Limerick. A lot of off-field noise got off over the last 8-10 months. Just want to play football, basically, get out there and show the world what we can do in what will be the women's first World Championships appearance.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I was just going to say, it's nuts that that's the case, isn't it? Like,
and let's not get into why it's the first.
We'll not rabbit hole that one, but yeah, I think it was. Yeah. One of the girls said that
maybe in the memoirs
last year. Yeah, when you write your book. So,
yeah.
So one of the girls said that to me last year, and I was like, no way. But yeah, of course, yeah, for a myriad of reasons. So yeah, you mentioned Limerick, both not that long ago and an eternity ago. I asked this question of Liam last week, so I guess Dean, I'll ask the same one of you. How long do you think it took once you got home to kind of like process and decompress that tournament?
Well, I guess it's coming up to 12 months. Yeah, I mean, did I go out thinking we could win it? Absolutely. But that doesn't take away from what the tournament was, what we went through out there, and actually experiencing that last game in Limerick. You know, I remember taking a time out with 14 seconds to go, scoring the point after, and then I mean, there was one point during that game, I think I've told this story so many times now, but we're going back and forth, and we've got players in our sideline, in our box, Grace being one of them, who obviously wasn't participating last year. Stood at the back of the box. I turned away from the field, couldn't watch it. She was that nervous. I walked over to her, grabbed her, and walked her to the front of the box and said, "You are watching this." Yeah, it It was emotional. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, it was hugely emotional at home. Like I had it on my phone. Like I left. We were having a barbecue at my mum and dad's house, and I ran back into the kitchen so I could get the Wi-Fi to watch it sideways on my phone, and then immediately had to kind of whoop and holler and run around the house and try and cast YouTube to the telly. I think when you call the timeout, I was trying to cast it to the telly to make sure I could see it, and it was amazing to see. Kind of, I can't imagine what it was like there. I've obviously spoken to many of the people that were there and spoken to Andy, and the outpouring of joy online from the community was unbelievable.
It was terrific. I mean, we were just there as fans, the men's team, for that, and it was a great experience. And 3 of the girls that I'd coached were in the team, so I kind of felt very special for them. But then I reflected back to when it was Gambro, Andrew, when he set it all up and he took them to Copenhagen, and you could see this potential in the squad. It just wasn't being uncorked. But you knew back then that they could easily be winning European Championships. It just hadn't been, that next step hadn't been taken for the programme. And it was nice to see Dean, because I don't know if everybody knows it, but I actually quite like Dean. He's a wonderful soul.
Don't lie, youngie, don't lie.
Quite fond of him, and I felt as bad for him out in Israel as I felt for anyone, because they should have won it then. So it was nice to see those demons dealt with.
Yeah, it was. I would have nothing to add to that other than yes, Alan, you're right.
God, I wish my wife would that.
I guess. Well, you have my number, so I guess kind of the same. The same question again for you, Youngie. I appreciate that your tournament ended differently, and to the to the eventual runners up. So when you come back, very different circumstances, very different squad as well from the previous Euros. Again, did you take some time to kind of process? And
it was an odd one because with the time in the flight, by the time I got home, it was kind of quite late in the evening, if I remember correctly, from Limerick, and there wasn't really time to unwind. Got back to work the next day. 200 children sort of graced my classroom the next day in total. There wasn't much time to decompress at all, and then I kind of just did it a little bit at a time and kind of reviewed. And you go through the emotions of, damn, we lost by a point to the Austrians, who are one of the best teams in the world at flag football. And what was worst about it was that there were mistakes that we made. It wasn't that they played a perfect game, it's that we allowed them to sneak ahead of us. And we tried everything we could tactically at the end to try and steal it back, but they're very sound. So there's absolutely no shame in a 1 point loss to the Austrians. It's just an absolute gutter. And it was the same with the France game, the first game of the group, that it never comes down to one play. We played exceptionally well, but I would love to have got rid of some of the demons, versus France from Israel, and we lost by a couple of points. And again, it was a loss that was kind of our own doing. There were mistakes by players, and that was it. So I came away from the Euros thinking we are, I don't want to get too overly political here, but we are unfunded at that point. Unfunded largely, player and coach funded, and we've finished, and we've lost to probably the only team, I believe, outside the US to ever win a World Championship, Austria, and we've lost them by a point in the quarterfinals. So I came away with lots of promise and lots of hope, but I don't think I properly unwound until we got back to camp. And then I think it was down in Loughborough, the first camp for selections this year, and you just kind of forget it at that point. It's next play. Let's do it all again. And this is my 9th year of doing this, so it's kind of just, it's like that after every tournament. It's right, okay, that happened. Next squad. And I get accused occasionally of favouritism and stuff like that, but when you see how much the squad changes tournament to tournament, I am genuinely just trying to find the absolute best squad to finally get this job done. So, I don't know how long it took me to decompress. I mean, possibly, like Dean said, I don't know if I ever have. So,
but I think that's the thing, though, right? You carry, you learn from your mistakes. You carry lessons to the next tournament. So there's always something that you could have done better. Even though we won last year, there are things in that final that we could have done much better. Calls that I made and that just weren't right, and you just hope you take that forwards to the next one and you don't make those same mistakes again.
Well, that's it. And I think what I love about the team that I had around me last year, and there's a good chunk of it still there, they want to be better. So immediately they were all talking about looking at the Germans and how athletic they were, and they're like, well, we need to improve our strength and conditioning. And I'd love to do that. And if we ever get a decent whack of funding, then it would be great to do a lot more of that. The knowledge that we've got in the squad, the guys have taken incredible care of themselves. Mm-hmm. And we've made a relationship with UA52 now, which will hopefully be something to build in the future. But what I loved off the back of the loss was that the team wasn't satisfied, and it was, how can we do better? And it's that conversation's been led by the captains, Gary and Charlie, at that last year, and they are pushing things forward because they know what the squad is capable of. And the excitement was still there from Gary, despite it being, I believe, his 10th or 11th year at that point. Yeah. So it's, the squad last year was special, and it's we've built on that, and it's incredibly special this year as well. So no, we've learned a lot, done what we can, but as you know, Dean, we're obviously limited by what we can do just because of fun.
Yeah.
So, you can coach speak me here if you really, really want to, but both of you kind of there mentioned, lessons that you learn from Limerick. Obviously, for a number of reasons, it was the first kind of big tournament, in a long time for GB. What was your big takeaway, Youngie, do you think, from last year into this one, even though there has been squad turnover as a group? What's your kind of takeaway from Limerick as you started your process in the build up to Lahti?
See, this is the interesting thing from Limerick. The squad was excellent, and there are a couple of players who were in that squad that are not in this one that would have made literally any GB squad that I've ever seen historically. So the squad was excellent. We just had to get a little more versatile, and Andrew Gibson has done a great job of getting more creative defensively. He did a great job already, but I think it's improved. And it was just getting more comfortable with each other, to be honest, because you know what, again, because we're, and I really don't want to bang the word player funded thing, but because we are player funded, it does limit how many camps we can do. You can't do 3 camps a month. You just can't afford to do it. So you're trying to create chemistry and get all that timing and everything, and get a quarterback who really needs to be comfortable with the receivers in 4 camps. I mean, it was 6 camps in total, but 2 of them were selection camps. And one of them, Charlie, had to dash off to go and see Shelbybourne. So it's very inconveniently timed by Charlie.
Very selfish.
Very selfish. But his wife saying that, to be fair, he came to Saturday camp and said, Coach, my wife might phone you, or my wife's mother-in-law might phone you because she's due to give birth this weekend. And I was like, why are you here?
Why are you here?
Yeah, but he's very committed. So, we've had more time with some of these receivers and more time to gel and to fix bits of the playbook that could have been improved, and we've changed our centre, so it's the access different skill set, and it's just been excellent. It's much better than last year. Avoiding saying too much, Bez, because it will give away some of my advantage.
No, that is understandable.
But yeah, I think what we realised last year is that we had an incredible platform. We've had much more sports psychology this year, and that's been amazing, not just for the team, but for me personally, because you start to doubt yourself after a while when you keep having these narrow losses. But he's been great at helping us build team chemistry and believing in ourselves all a bit more. So that just these kind of things might make the difference. And Coach Kirby has gave us endless reading material, suggested to read, and I think I've now logged about 80 hours worth of coaching books in the audiobooks this year alone, and just churning away trying to be a better person. I know that many of my opponents in the field will still say that I am an arsehole, but I am trying. I am trying to be a better person.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's got the Kirby section of the bookcase, because it's actually just behind me. It's just over that shoulder.
I thought you were going to be the only one calling him the arsehole.
So I probably have done at some point.
No, like I'm actually thinking about putting together just a document for all scoff coaches in the future that this is the set of books you need to read before you're allowed to coach, because it's all excellent. And then Casper's gave me a couple of sports psychology ones to read as well. So it's I think I've realised that my role is different than it used to be as well. I used to need to be a lot more X's and O's, but now I've got Alan and Andrew for that, and they take care of the offence and defence largely, which allows me to kind of attend funding calls and attend other bits and pieces. It just takes a lot of the weight off. So yeah, it's been a journey, an evolution of me this last year as well as the team. So it's been great.
Good. And I guess Dean will ask you the same question. 1 year on, once you started your new cycle, what have you taken away from last year with the group? Because again, there's been some change.
Yeah.
So how have you managed to keep a bit of consistency?
I guess we start with the change, and it sort of stems from what I said earlier about learning from opportunities for improvement. The mistakes that I made as a coach out there, and trying to build on the success that we had. We've changed, I think, 5 players out of a European Championship squad of 12, and we've done that for a variety of reasons. But I think I believe we are truly stronger this year than we were last year. Speed side of things, and from a point of view whereby everybody knows each other a bit more. We've had another year spent together where we've not been interrupted by COVID or whatever, and the ramifications of that period. Obviously, the coaching staff, the OCDC, Jack Reed, Fraser Thompson, they've had another year with the squad, which builds those relationships and allows us to further expand our playbooks in the way Coach Young's just stated as well. I'm really looking forward to getting out there next week and playing football and putting all the last 12 months' hard work out on the field and see where we're at.
I can feel it from you as well. I can feel that you're like so ready, just to like I just want to go now. I'm done with waiting.
Yeah, I'm done. Let's go.
Let's go. So, well, I'm gonna pull you back just a wee bit, but so obviously on the sides, you kind of went back through the selection process. You went back through kind of team building process. You've reviewed those lessons that we just spoke about. Dean, I wonder if you could speak a bit about kind of like the values and the skill sets that you're looking for from your players when you're kind of going through that selection review tryout process.
Yeah, I mean, we actually, from a physical side this year in our trials process, we took some measurement data last year, speed, agility tests and what have you, like a mini combine type thing. We actually used that data at points this year to determine borderline players. It wasn't the only thing that we took into consideration when we were selecting the group coming into the program, not necessarily the squad that we're taking out to Finland. But we were trying to become more and more professional and data orientated in certain areas as we move forwards. So basic things such as speed and agility measurements. We're looking for that elite athlete that can compete on a world stage. I would say as a whole, our squad is faster and more agile this year for sure. But then on the other side, in terms of the psych side of things that Youngie touched on, we put a lot of effort into it. We put a lot of effort into it in Ireland actually, because that for me was what lost us that final in 2019. It was the mental preparation between the semis and the final. We just didn't get that right, and that sort of falls on me, which is what I took into Ireland last year. We completely changed what we did between the semis and final last year, and were obviously successful. So building upon that, we're looking for that mental fortitude from the players. We're looking for the players to buy into what we're pushing as a staff, and It's a team first mentality. It's cliche to say it. You hear it in all the books and what have you, but it really is. What do we want from a player? Well, we want them to put the team first, because if you put the team first, the team will succeed. Whereas if you have a group of 12 individuals, you'll turn up, you do a good job, but you're not going to take it all the way. So for me, really, it's about making sure that people are slotting in. They're building the relationships with each other, both on and off the field. When there's 5 of them out on the field, that they know that everybody around them is doing, their damn best. They've put in all the blood, sweat, and tears and training throughout the year to succeed in each and every down, and that they can rely on each other and sort of buy into each other's efforts, and that they're giving 100% as well.
So I guess in terms of earlier this year, you guys had the pretty cool opportunity to head out to Prague as kind of an extended squad for that. Those games with kind of a pair of Czech squads and a pair of German squads. In terms of that as a bonding experience, I can imagine that was amazing. But where did that whole trip kind of come from? Because it's kind of something that I hadn't really picked up on teams doing before.
Yeah, I mean, it actually stemmed from the back end of COVID, where I think it was 2022. Obviously, we'd had the fallout from the 21 not attending Worlds fiasco.
We're on
I'm moving swiftly on.
It's a QI buzzer.
Yeah. What I was reticent of was not going into the 23 season with not having travelled to Israel in 21 being the last thing that the team did. I know both squads had major, quite rightly so, major fallout from the effects of 21. So, we sort of had the discussion about, let's go out and have a friendly tournament in 2022. We went out to Germany in 22 and funnily enough played Germany, obviously, and Czechia in a little friendly tournament. Come last year, we went out, we found the benefit of being out there and playing at a higher level as part of the preparation. So last year we ended up going to King Bowl, and we ended up second at King Bowl, losing in the final by a point or something. I think we went for 2 and didn't convert and ended up second. But effectively, that step for me, getting the players playing at that level and giving us the opportunity as staff to try a few things at that level is really important, rather than turning up to Limerick last year with a whole host of ideas and hoping for the best. It kind of gives you the preparation. So this year, same approach. We wanted to try a bunch of things, give the players opportunity to play together at that level, rather than just turn up to Finland and hoping for the best. So yeah, it was a great weekend. We got to try a whole bunch of stuff. But again, when I spoke about team first and playing with each other, the 5 out on the field, it gave opportunity for the players to build that chemistry whilst we were out there.
So I'll skip ahead on what we had planned to talk about. The fact that Czechia are now in your group, good thing or bad thing?
I mean, look, we've got a great relationship with the Cheshire team. Devin's a great coach. I've known Devin for a number of years now. Obviously, he was the Spanish DC when they beat us in 2019. So it's I always enjoy playing good teams, and to go out there, Germany and Czechia, both great teams. Germany, having success last year as well. Czechia, the team that beat us last year. To be the best, you've got to beat the best. So playing at that level against 2 great teams gave us that opportunity. And I look forward to playing Czechia in the group stage. I'm sure there'll be a few new things neither of us have seen. But yeah, that's going to be a great first game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it was a slight eyebrow raise when I was handed the spreadsheet of the groups, because when I saw that one, for kind of familiar foes between the lines, but obviously a great relationship off. Yeah, so Alan, I guess, yeah, your own brain being full of coaching philosophy and coaching books. when you brought kind of, had yourself set up for your selection process, you mentioned that you've been doing kind of physical work, psych work. So what were, again, another go round with kind of that reduced 12 players, kind of what were you looking for in the squad kind of this time round to build upon from last year?
It was similar to what we were looking for last year. We were looking for more versatility. Just players that can play multiple positions is just valuable. And it means that even if you lose maybe one of your starting five, not that we really have starting five to be honest, but if you lose one of your starting five, then there's someone else at a high level that can step in. Like, your tournament's not over because your safeties went down. You have someone else. Your tournament's not over because your centre has done something. It's about having enough cover at an elite level, but also just looking for a bit more speed. A bit like Dean, just a little bit more killer speed to try and push safeties back. Not even so much to go over the top, but just really just to aggressively attack. A little bit more speed, harder to cover. Hopefully, force some defences out of their rhythm. Kind of thing, because every defence has got tendencies, and if you can get them trying to call things that they don't normally call, then you've got an advantage. So, and I think Alan and Charlie will do an excellent job of that as well. But we were more versatility and more speed really was the kind of the two main things. But we also wanted to try and keep a good core of the squad because of how strong a team it was last year. But inevitably there had to be some change. Just a couple of players came back really looking strong this year.
Yeah, it was a good mix of kind of new faces and some returning faces from sides. What's it like when some of those players kind of turn back up the trials again and they're like, right, I'm here, I'm back, I'm ready, I want to go. Like, how does that make you feel? And as kind of having them back in the group.
I'm going to try not to single too many people out, but Costas we had selected to the squad last year. We had already had him on our list of receivers. And when I was phoning to just kind of chat with people and give them a bit of feedback at that point, not final selections, he just went, "Coach, I just need to tell you, my wife's going to be due to give birth the weekend of the Euros. I'm not going." And he said it much nicer than that, but that's all I heard was, "I'm not going to the Euros." So it was nice to see him back and in fantastic shape and looking like Costas, because we just knew he could earn his spot again. So we nice to see him finally get that run out for GB, because he's not actually had the run out for GB. It was nice to see AJ Carr as well this year, continue to plug away. He started with the Silvers when he was 16. And he's worked with the Silvers and what he's done with his own programme, and he was out in the youth CFL last year and stuff, and to have him finally break through was excellent. Doing those feedback calls was horrible. It's probably the worst part of the job, is telling people they've not got a spot in the team. Yeah. It's particularly the downside when you do build a stronger chemistry in the team and you allow yourself to care about them, which is something that I've done a bit more with the team last year and the team this year. And but that just makes letting them go all the harder. God, this sounds very somber, but it's like an incredible privilege to have the strength of squad that we have this year, and the players that have missed out, they know who they are. It is not really an indictment on them, and more just the caliber's got high. I think, in all honesty, 12 players is rough to go to these tournaments with. It's really rough. Carrying a backup quarterback is nearly impossible. And that's despite previous history when we lost our quarterback 2 days before. You learn from that lesson. You're like, right, we need to carry 2 quarterbacks. I should have carried 2 quarterbacks then, and now you can't. You just can't do it because it means losing us. Yeah, so it's tricky, it's tough, but it's the squad's very strong. I've forgotten your original question now, and I've deviated down a hole of my own.
Down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, my own thought process has just started to unravel slowly. Yeah, it's some of the decisions were challenging. The trials were exciting, and we had and again, I'm holding some stuff back here because I don't really want people to know. But we had certain. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. That's it.
Yeah,
It's not like you to be coy.
No, I told you, Dean, it's been a year of personal growth. Trying
Yeah,
my
there's-
best to be a better person.
There's
Excellent.
there's roughly one conversation a year where Alan will be coy, and it's for the last 2 years. It's been about this time of year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So-
last year, Bez, I got myself in trouble because I got annoyed with Bafa not announcing the team and just told you the team on your podcast so that we
You
could
did.
finally get
You
it
did.
announced.
You did.
So the
Shall we just go
players
through?
could
Shall we
finally
just
get
go
the-
through the list? I mean, yeah, sure. I'm not going to say no.
Exclusive.
Yeah,
And
basically.
I got my knuckles wrapped for it, but I wanted the players to get the gratification at game days so that when they turned up to their game days, they got the nod from their peers. And I think that's a lovely thing for them to feel. And I was kind of, frustrated that we hadn't announced it, so I took matters into my own hands.
That's
I wouldn't
always
do
one
that
of the
now.
things that I really enjoy, like being lucky enough to, be a Premiership player. And there's a lot of, there's a fair amount of players in the division from, both your squads actually that I see semi-regularly. And yeah, when the team lists come out, it's very nice as essentially a fan to be able to go up to them and say, amazing, well done. Like it's really nice. And I think everyone deserves that. I think if you put the work in and show the dedication and, grind and sacrifice what all of these people do, because even though we're not talking about it young, we're self-funded. Like you deserve the plaudits you get for being able to pull on the shirt with the flag on. Like that's, to then go and have success at tournaments is obviously amazing, but like, let's not, like you've kind of both alluded to, let's not forget how hard it actually is just to get to that, to be in the 12, right? Like, and that's,
this is it. When you think about it, there's 12 now. I should know the women's numbers given that I'm running the women's league this year, but I don't, because, for a variety of reasons, let's not go down that rabbit hole. If you, I think there's 60 teams-ish in the NIFL this year. So you get 60 teams-ish, average of 10. Well, there has to be at least 10. So you're 600 players. But then you've got all the contact players that could try out. None of them bother because I honestly don't know why. Maybe they don't fancy it. Maybe they don't think they can do it. Or maybe they think they're above it. I don't honestly know. But there's thousands of players in the UK that could come and try out for the men's GB squad. 12 get selected. It's such a small percentage. And a couple of years ago we talked and I mentioned that the gap from the bottom of the sport to the top's not that big. And it's still not compared to funded sports. But it's getting bigger. And it's getting harder to get up to that very elite level. It's really interesting. And I think what people maybe don't appreciate is the sheer amount of work that the players put in to stay in the shape that they're in. Yeah. Liam Harper, you spoke to the wee HNC Liam last week. The amount of work that he puts in is incredible. He's an outstanding human being who just works his socks off, and so does Ollie. And actually, literally, I could sit now just list all the players on the team and the amount of physical work they put themselves through. And here's me, a fatty, just simply trying to squat and hoping my knee doesn't blow out just for 100 kilos. And they're doing ridiculous weights. And I sat with Ollie Dyer, which last year after Euros we were chatting about me starting to learn how to lift with Woodsy. And he was asking me what I'd worked my way up to. And I went, I'm stuck at 165 in the deadlift. And he goes, is that all you lift, coach? Thanks, Ollie. Yeah. I'm not
cheers,
an athlete. Mate. I'm a coach.
Good job he left that till after the tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Benched.
Trying to remember myself why I've picked him this year again. No, I enjoyed the candor of it. And then he started to backtrack a bit. He's like, oh, well, did you do the X bar and stuff? I think it kind of reminded me of these guys are faster, stronger, and just having an incredible work ethic. And that really is the difference. The work ethic of these players is phenomenal.
Yeah. The sheer both physical and technical prowess that will be on show across the board next week is going to be like nothing else that has been seen in it's going to I can't wait.
I remember getting a bit nostalgic here. So way back I was quite. I'm still immature. I was going to say I'm quite immature when I was younger, but I'm still pretty immature. But at the end of 2014, I had decided that I was going to stop mucking about and moaning about the way GB was run and actually try and become part of the solution. And I messaged Stuart Mackay, the previous head coach, and went, "Look, Stu, I'd love to come be part of your coaching staff and learn. I've finally accepted that I don't know it all. I'd like to come and learn from you and go from there." Things happened and I ended up not getting the chance to go to 2015, but I watched 2015 from the house and I watched a lot of the footage. And compared to the teams that are out there now, you'd think that was a pub tournament. Crazy. And that wasn't a bad team in 2015. I mean, I think Dean was on it, but other than that, it was a pretty good team.
Yeah, it's an age ago.
Shade.
Thanks.
They're like a capable team, but compared to what's out there now, and that's not
it just keeps getting better every year, year on year. And if we want to continue to compete, we've got to keep getting better and better.
Well, that's it. And I have to, the literal Olympic torch being lit for flag football is like a beacon out to everyone around. Well, I can try that. We had a women's development day at the weekend and we had a GB tag rugby player turn up because, she said it, she looked into it before, but I'm pretty sure the Olympics, she's one for you, Dean, to be fair, potentially in the future, if we can get her a team and get her to learn flag. But it's like that as a beacon. So the athleticism level is potentially going to go up, and it's Dean and I's job to make sure that the people, these new athletes coming into the sport, get the opportunities and can learn flag. And we're going to rely on all the coaches throughout the country who coach at club level. They might not realise they play a part in our success, but the coaching they do at club level will be vital over the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Olympic ones are obviously, as I said to Liam last week, I had a bit of a it's kind of a hard emotion to pinpoint, but I was it felt real, because the Olympic announcement, it comes out last year and it's okay, it's 5. It's still 5 years. We've got to get through Paris first. We've got World Games. We've got another round of Euros and Worlds and stuff. And then you're sitting watching the closing ceremony and Matthew Pinson is talking about flag football. Right. And for me, I was all of a sudden I was oh my God, someone on the BBC, on BBC One in prime time just said flag football. It's real. It's happening. It's I would be interested to know, Dean, how, now that we're now that we're in the Olympiad, did that night make it real? Did the Olympics being on make it real? Just thinking next time it's us kind of thing. I'd love to know. I'd love to know your thoughts on kind of how the Olympics made you feel in Paris.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, right? I think it just, as Younger was just touched on, it opens up the sport to so many more people. And not at the Olympic level, just in general, the pathways, the sport, it's all just going to sort of snowball off the back of the announcement, which will be great when it funnels its way through to the GB squad, and hopefully we can go out there and be successful. But I think for me, it does feel a long way away still.
Yeah,
and we have a lot of work as a sport, as a governing body, and then as the programs. We've got a lot of work to do between now and then. And as you say, three tournaments, 4 tournaments maybe between now and then, that we sort of take one step at a time. But yeah, I think it's a great thing for the sport. I think it's going to get so many more people involved, and yeah, it's definitely an exciting prospect for sure.
I'll give you some, I talk about flag football quite a lot, even to random people who have got no idea what I'm talking about. So my colleagues, I've been at this school for 6.5 years now. My colleagues have heard about flag football. I've mentioned last year that we were going to the Olympics. No one believes, I don't think anyone actually registered a thing that I was talking about until Matthew Pinsent mentioned it at the Olympics. The next day, a week later, going to school, my colleague Christina says, "Alan, did you know that your flag football is going to the Olympics?" I'm like, "Yeah, Christina, yeah, I did. Thanks for that. Yeah, I coached the GB national team." And she went, "No, you don't." And I was like, "Why do you think I've been to Israel and Copenhagen and Limerick?" And it was like it finally they were just listening and nodding along to me before, but now Olympics. Oh, that's an actual sport.
Yeah, I mean, so I've started playing 6-a-side kicky round ball on a Monday evening.
Never know where that's going to bounce, that round ball. It's confusing.
And people who are playing football, soccer, are asking me about flag football. Like, that's just unheard of. Like, they really are. It's like, oh, wow, did you know? Yeah, it's in the Olympics. Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. So, yeah, it's changed the sort of concept of what we do to be something that's almost socially accepted now, rather than a little, rather than sport that we might play on a Saturday or a Sunday in a park somewhere.
I always talk about it. We're the minority wing of a minority sport, as it is in the UK. This conversation of the Olympics is moving the needle a little bit, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I know that I've drawn the parallel between the journey that Flag is on and the journey that I watched on the sidelines for climbing as well. That's quite a funny point you've made there, Youngie, because like essentially we are the speed climbing of, that's what flag football is the equivalent of. It's kind of the minority of the minority. But I'm telling you one thing, get us on the telly and people will be like, oh, it's fast, I like it.
Well, I watched the climbing at the Olympics. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think there's a sport I didn't watch this year. The modern pentathlon, I watched some dressage, I've watched it all, like genuinely, the judo, everything. The fact that we can be in that platform in 2028 is exciting. I just need to not get in trouble for the next 4 years and continue to do a
not screw up too much.
Yeah.
Definitely plays at the back of my mind.
I'm glad I've started this journey of self-improvement like a year ago, and I'm not starting now, or it would be too late.
Yeah. Brilliant. So, next. Well, so obviously we've now got your we've got your draws, we've got your groups, we've got the slightly strange knockout format, but that we'll look forward to.
That needs to be on the list of things we're not talking about as well.
To try and work out. But yeah, obviously you kind of, and again, I know you're not going to give anything away, so you can coach speak if you want. Youngie, like, you get your groups. It's Georgia, a team that I don't think you'll have played before, but you obviously know Sweden and Germany very well. It's an all-European group. What was your, here's the email, open the envelope, as it were. Kind of, what did you think when you had a look at that?
I thought we were winning the group. Actually, was when I opened it up. Like, Georgia have got some good athletes. Like, they're not mucking about. Some of them didn't get off the plane for the Euros last year, so we know that's a different team that we're going to see, and we're going to have to be at our best to do it right out the gate. But if we play our best football, we can win that. Sweden gave me one of my least favourite losses ever, and very possibly my lowest point ever as the GB head coach, unfortunately, for a variety of reasons. So I enjoy any chance to play Sweden just to try and erase that memory over and over again. And then who on earth doesn't want a chance to play the European champions? Like, and they're excellent. Germany are fantastic. Benji is one of the most talented quarterbacks I've seen, regardless of what side of the Atlantic we're talking about. He's outstanding. I've gave him a couple of losses over his time, but nowhere near the number of losses he's gave me. And he's fun to watch, and he's exciting. And the chance to play him. Yeah, I heard a bit about what Liam said last week, and it would have been lovely to an unknown opponent completely. But that's out of our control. So controlling the controllables, looking at that group. If we go and play our best, we can win that group. And then I spent the next week analysing all the potential ramifications of how it could work with the other groups, and what if they do A versus B, C versus D, or do they just flip it and they do like C versus, and then they come up with a format that they've came up with, which at some point someone will justify, and it doesn't really matter. Quite excited about the group. I would love a chance to go and beat the European champions, and it would probably actually confirm some of what we felt in Limerick, that if we'd managed that game against Austria, we would have been in the final. So it's the gap between 6th and 1st in Europe is just not that big.
It's not that big.
As arrogant as that sounds, it's just not that big.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that about kind of like Benji, like the first, Benji would not be able to pick me out of the lineup, and that's fine. But I know who he is because the Flag in New Year, number 2, they made the final. That was my first ever flag tournament. Me and you have spoken about this at length before. I think I'd been playing flag football for about 4 weeks, and on this Sunday afternoon, I sat and I watched that final, which, as I progressed through my flag football career, I now understand was one of the all-time classic finals of a Flag in New Year. It was
a good one.
And for me, is again 4 weeks in, I was like, I know what that is. I don't know how to do it. I don't fully understand what's going on, but I know that is high-level flag. And then, obviously, I've now been around the sport for the better part of 10 years, which is more than some people, nowhere near as long as many others. And he's obviously still there with a European crown on his head. So,
yeah. And
why would you not want to crack? I don't think I've ever actually played a team that he's been on.
Not played him?
In any tournament.
Played them a few times. It's always a fun game. He's such a capable quarterback, and he's been doing it for so long. But what I love about the team that I've got is that they want to play these best teams. They want to take them on to test themselves. They're not, I would say, and I mean, Dean, you were part of my previous teams, Dean, so you can pull me up if you like. But I think back in like 2016 with Calvin and that, we were trying to map what would be our best route and how could we get easier games the next way and how could things go. Whereas this team really are up for anything. They're up for playing any team because they believe in themselves, and it's damn well they should. So I love that about them. And I seen Germany and just thought, all right, let's go. That's an awesome opportunity to go and upset the apple cart and see what we can do right off the bat.
So yeah, obviously, like that's the big that's your kind of group. So, but if you were to kind of, obviously, when you were looking at the wider draw on the men's side, was there any kind of other group that caught your eye, like any matchups that you saw, like I know obviously that you are an absolutely massive just flag football fan in general. So was there, like, if you were going to Lahti as a fan, which group do you think you would kind of like hover around if you didn't have any other responsibilities?
It's funny because this is the sad thing, is that we were doing an itinerary the other day and it's like, what we try and go and watch the women's team, and it's like, I'm going to struggle. Never mind seeing some of the other games. It's, there will be, I don't think there's one specific group that provide like a whole load of matches that are going to be amazing, but there are individual matches that I would really like to see. Like, I'm really intrigued to see how, this is a bit off the ball a wee bit, but I'm really intrigued to see how New Zealand look against Panama.
Right?
New Zealand looked really good in the Pan-Asia games. Is that what they call them? Let's go with it.
Asia Oceania Continentals, I think, to give them their official title.
Thank you. That's the one. So
keep us on track, Bez.
Got you. I got you. Got my spreadsheet.
They look really good out there, and it's did they look really good, or because the opposition wasn't amazing, or are they actually like we played New Zealand out in 2016, and we had a couple of cracking shootouts with them, and they're good lads. Like they're good lads, and in fact, actually, I've got a message sitting in my messenger from the head coach of New Zealand that I've not spoken to in a while, and I'm intrigued to see what they do against Panama. Like that is a tasty match. I think that's going to be interesting because those Panamanians are good athletes. Like they are fun to watch, and that's like seed 6 versus seed 11. So like they're quite close in seed, but there's a few misleading ones like Japan, France, 8 and 9. I honestly,
it's the same
think
thing though, isn't it? Like how good are they?
Well, that's it, and I think, in all honesty, France will probably win that quite comfortably. I think France are going to dominate their group and cause an upset somewhere down the line because they're excellent. And then you've got a couple of classics like Israel, Denmark. That's always one to watch out for. Denmark seem to be on a bit of a slide, but I would always trust that federation to sort things out. And Israel seem to be becoming good recently. There is just matches all over the place. Canada are always stronger than their rating suggests, and Italy are in their group. There's some exciting matches there, but there's no one group because of the way they've done it with the 1 to 8
1, 2,
and
3,
then
4,
feedback. They have kind of avoided a group of death in any way, which I appreciate because GB always seem to end up in them. But it does mean that there's always every group's kind of got a game. Maybe apart from Group B, I think Group B, Mexico are going to handle themselves quite comfortably. And Spain, USA could be sneaky good because the Spanish are a really good team. And I really don't have any idea how good Brazil are. So maybe the USA will face a couple of challenges. But yeah, every group's got one game that's going to be worth watching, I'd say.
I'm kind of interested in and it's similar to what you were saying about New Zealand, like the Australia, Chile, Cameroon tripod. Is something that is something I think will be good. Like I fully believe the same as you. Mexico will be, taking their place as a group winner in the next round. But the
Australia, Chile, who will get second? I don't think Cameroon's going to be at the level of them, but then they might be. Like, I could be very judgmentally just assuming there. I've not seen enough footage in Cameroon to know otherwise. But they only really started their flag programme about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago. Like, they were reaching out to me and Martin Cockrell when Martin was the chairperson of BAFA, looking for help in playbooks, and we sent across some basic things to get them started. And that was long ago. So, I say long ago, like 5-6 years ago. So they're in their infancy compared to a lot of the teams that are.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess for yourself, Dean, Czechia, who we touched on earlier on, Israel, Panama. You open the envelope, you see who you've got in your group. What was the initial thought on that one?
Well, to be honest, we'd obviously maybe scheming about who's likely to be in our group based on the numbers we'd heard through the grapevines. And it was either going to be Panama or Canada. And then we weren't sure after that. So I mean we're looking forward to playing Panama. As I say, first time in the World Championships for the women's team. Playing somebody outside of Europe is really sort of going to test where we're at on the world stage. Plus Jack, our OC, was Panama's head coach. 2018-19 World Games in 2021. So there's a bit of a. I'm sure Jack's out for putting a stamp on that game for sure. So yeah, that will be what I hope. Obviously, that's our day 2 game. What I hope will be our group deciding fixture, assuming we play to what we believe we can on day 1. So yeah, extremely excited to play the 3 teams. As I said, just ready to go out and play football in general, to be honest.
Yeah, it was funny. I messaged players last week just to see how they're doing, how they're feeling, and get little updates from them all. And that was the theme from every day: was, can we just go and play now?
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long. It feels like a really long build up to this one.
Yeah.
I guess in a way it kind of has been, because it started the Monday you got home, essentially. So it's so it kind of it's not surprising that you feel that way, I guess.
No, and I guess it's one of the bits of feedback we got from the players last year was that they would like the squad selected earlier, and part of that so that they can get the money together more easily if we pick the squad a bit earlier. So because of that, we started selections earlier. So I guess that it has just been longer this year. And it'll be longer next year because we're doing our Silver Open trial in October. But
yeah,
we'll save
cross that
for
bridge when we
get
to it. So yeah, I guess Dean, outside of the, as I was saying to Youngie, outside of your group, if you're a fan, just kind of wandering around Lahti, which other group do you think brings you your interest? You think which one, if you were a fan, would you think you go stand on the sidelines of?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to cop out here and say there's a few, to be honest. I think Group C with Germany and Japan. I think that's going to be a very interesting game. Obviously, Japan are ranked 3rd in the world, coming off their their sort of triumph last year. But Germany are a great team, and that will be definitely an interesting game to watch. And again, the fixtures are great. That's a day 2 fixture, so there's going to be a lot of intensity around that sort of afternoon slot on day 2. Spain, Austria, Group E.
Yeah,
I think that'll be a deciding game in that group as well. Both of those 2 games are likely to have an effect on our route through the playoffs. And then, France are a great team. We played them twice last year. Obviously successful against them. They're in the USA's group. Obviously, everybody's expecting the USA to run the group and then run through the playoffs. I think they could give the US a good game for sure.
Yeah, I think for me it was Group E, and I guess Group E benefits from only having the 4 teams in it. But Austria, Spain, New Zealand, and then Switzerland. Much like Youngie was saying on the men's side, don't know how good the New Zealand women are. They looked good on their film. They ran the whole way through the tournament. But I mean, Austria and Spain are a big challenge, no matter who you are.
Yeah, and I think Austria have also got Saskia back playing for them, who's obviously a tremendous quarterback and has been around the game a long time. So that'll be a different look Austria, I imagine, to what we saw last year as well. And they were strong last year. So, that's definitely going to be an interesting game between Spain and Austria.
Yeah, Austria's women's team are excellent. Even downgrading the quarterback a bit from Saskia. No offence to the young person that played there last year, but you could see there was a bit of a drop off, but the receiving talent was still there.
Yeah,
there was still potential. So, be interested to see what Saskia can do.
Yeah, I'm very excited. The whole women's draw, like Mexico, Canada, even in Group B, classic. That was a 1-point game in the Continentals last year for Mexico. Yeah,
and Italy, right? Italy gave us one of the best games we had all tournament last year.
Italy gave you guys a run last year. They're in that group as well.
They employ a very deep playbook. That against Mexico will be a great game. The question mark for me in that group's Canada. Just because of how they select their team. I think they take the top domestic team in the league each year, rather than going through a trials process.
Oh, damn.
I think that's what the Spanish men did in the past as well at one point.
Right.
It was just more efficient. And you had the team chemistry and, it saves all that money doing actual trials.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see, because it'll be a completely different Canadian team than what we saw last year at the Americas.
Okay. I didn't realise that. Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
There you go, some insider knowledge there, Mez.
There you go. Well, that actually brings me on to what I spoke to you about beforehand off air about as the kind of the final lighthearted end of the show. So there's a company called Pick Your Squad that are doing a fantasy football based off of the World Championships and the stats that come out of it and the player rosters and stuff. So to avoid you picking favourites on your own teams, I want to know, boys, who should I be drafting from other nations in my fantasy football team to help me win?
But I'm not allowed to draft from Dean's women's team.
Can I draft from Youngie's men's team?
Neither of you.
Obviously,
you're gonna have to pick someone else.
The first
pick
pick.
One player from another team that I should be trying to get in my fantasy team. So I'll let you guys decide who's going to go first.
I don't know.
I'm allowed to pick one pair. 32 teams are allowed to pick one pair.
So right, Youngie. I've got the number 1 overall draft pick. Who am I taking?
Hoosh from the USA.
Hoosh. Yeah, I think he might be popular with everyone outside of the NFL community at the moment.
It's part of the reason I've named him. I'm very pleased with his comments.
I loved it. Big fan of
And he is
Hoosh.
an absolute baller.
He is very, very, very good at football.
Yeah. And you know what, with their group, because of the way they've seeded it, 16, 17 and 32 is the seeds in their group. From a fantasy point of view, just racking up stats, that might be the way to go. The only downside might be that they bench him if it gets too far ahead. So
yeah, that could be the case. All right, Dean. Who am I for my women's team? Who am I taking?
I'm absolutely awful with names. So from the handful of people that I actually know by name, I'm going to pick Flores from Mexico.
Oh, that's just you just
Yeah.
need the Super Bowl commercial.
That's it. That's the only reason I know her name.
Yeah, Gianna Flores.
I'm sorry, I don't do social media. I watch film and I know jersey numbers. That's it.
You know, it's funny. So, like, the digital scout team do a great job for us. Like Liam, Ollie, Ash. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten the names of the other people, so I'm going to be embarrassed just shortly. But I'll get told off for it. I can't even use my phone to scramble for it because I'm using it to record this. But they do an incredible job, and they know all the players' names. And I just tend to remember numbers. But they have the names and they do the scouting on social media to find out who everybody is. I really struggle to remember them. Like I really, other than quarterbacks where they tend to stand out a bit, I do tend to struggle. So no, I don't think there's any judgment on you for not remembering opposition players' names.
Thanks.
No, that's okay. My recommendation for those drafting on the women's side will be Mads Fulford, number 5 receiver for the USA. Unbelievable.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
I'm sure there's a few people in the GB team that would give you an argument there on that one.
So, I mean, her social media is very good, and yeah, and again, that's where I get most of my draft information from.
What Bez has done here is give us an impossible task, because I just sit here looking at this going, who on earth would leave Fabi out of the receiver set from Germany?
Right, there you go.
You know,
so the way
it's a shame he's in GB's group, or he'd get even better stats. So it's
the way that the it seems to be set up is like 1 quarterback, 3 receivers, and 3 defenders out of 32. Out of 55 teams. If it's mixed, I don't know how they're going to do it really. But
what? No blitz.
So
see, they're missing a treat.
Well, I mean, you could pick a blitz. Blitzers are defenders. You know, so I don't know. So well, I'll fight you.
they're like a different style of attacker.
They are
different.
Absolute weirdos. Those blitzers, aren't they?
Second most important player.
Sorry, Sarah.
See, it's funny because obviously your squad's changed quite a bit. So Sarah's now like the token Scot in there this year for the G women's team.
She's English.
She is.
She's not English anymore.
Not anymore. Callum's definitely converted her.
She says some of these things that are Scottish, and you're like, with your accent, that sounds really weird.
Yeah. Uses the word "we" and it's funny to listen to. Yeah,
she's great. She's great. Oh, there's definitely Vez. I know that you're saying no to GB, but I think there's a couple of those GB women's players that you should
don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I
think there's more than a couple personally.
My entire
bias.
My entire lineup is likely to be GB players, and I'll just live by that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to enter. Like, if it's only 6 players per team, I'm going to have to enter. Like,
enter twice to get the whole squad.
I'm going to have to enter. I'm going to have to enter quite a lot of teams in order to make sure I pick everyone. But yeah, no, that should be a bit of fun. That I spoke to Max at Fantasy Football Europe or whatever I think the company's called. Pick Your Squad is the brand. I spoke to him earlier on, and he was like, "Yep, should be out by the end of the week." So play some fantasy football.
Fun.
Cool.
So,
I think I'm going to leave that personally. I've got enough stress.
You're probably not allowed to play, given that you can. Unless you can, tell you what, though, guys, if you're allowed to pick fantasy coaches, if not, then I'll pick.
Well,
make
it's
sure
probably
that you guys...
a good job you're not, because it'd be based on flags and all sorts, and I'm sure we'd be.
Yeah,
near the
how good are you guys at the challenge flag?
Yeah.
So, but in fairness, my rules knowledge is strong. Although I learned a couple of things at camp the other week that stunned me, and I reread part of the rule book, and I'm like, that is a stupid way to officiate that, but it is the way that we're doing it.
It is the rule. So, it's the way it's going to be done.
It's the blitzer thing. It's crazy. If you signal a blitz and you jump, it now gets blown dead straight away. Like, you don't get to run the play and have a free play as a quarterback.
Really?
Because they've made an illegal signal because they've went past 7 yards. But Bez, this isn't the podcast that you want. You don't want me going through the.
That's an off-season podcast.
No,
that one.
As a blitzer, I need to find out what that rule is, because I don't like that.
Well, I
Don't
was
like
calling it that way at the kids' game tournament at the weekend, and the coaches were furious with me. And thankfully, the wife Claire pulled out her phone and went, "Here it is," and showed them,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh my god, that's a terrible rule." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it is the rule, and
Well,
I love rules."
We had
You do love
we
rules.
had a
You do
discussion.
love rules, Alan Young.
I do.
We had a discussion the other week about how the quarterback can actually impede the blitzer. So there you go. That's another topic for another podcast.
Oh, it's going to be some
Yeah.
X's and O's to try and. Yeah, we played a team this season, Youngie, that ran a center blocking play, which is something for us to discuss later on.
Nice. Well, I mean,
So
you know, the thing, you do these pods, Bez, and you start to touch on these things, and you talk about your favourite tournament structure, and you'll talk about rules and stuff, and I'm like, those need to be separate pods, and I need to be invited because I've got things to say.
I think there's definitely one in there for us to do. You know, Youngie, when it snows and it's dark and there's not much else going on. You know, if flag football ever takes an off season more than 2 weeks long, then we can design the perfect flag tournament.
I was about to say, is that August in Scotland?
So,
You know, this is actually the first August in a while that there's not been much flag happening in Scotland.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of weird. It kind of is an off season, but then again, I refereed a kids tournament at the weekend, and I then ran a women's development day. So I guess off season, not so much, but yeah, I could do with an off season.
I think it was
actually.
last year. There was in Scotland there was at least one competitive tournament for I think I worked out it was 15 straight months.
Yeah.
I think I can't remember. I'd need to find where the line was again. But I think there was an October where there wasn't anything. Or there was a September maybe where there wasn't anything. And then
more likely to be September. Yeah.
And then it went October. Basically it went from the Quake through Winter League and Flag and New Year and the season back round to finals and the Quake and Winter League, and then I think there was a gap on the other side maybe. But yeah, it was nuts.
I feel like you could do like a 30-minute pod just on everything that's going on with Scoff. To be honest, at the moment we seem to be very busy, but that's a different.
That's why these things end up 2 hours long. But yes, all of that is for another day. All that's left, really, guys, is to say thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. With a week to go, and all the luck in the world. Basically, good luck when you finally get to play some football.
Yeah, cheers.
I can see the engagement and the kind of the community buy-in on all the metrics, and people are excited for you guys and the teams, and I'm looking forward to.
Well, I think the fact that every game's streamed means the community can really
get on board.
follow this time, and I just hope the streaming holds out because there are a lot of people, and I know there's a lot of people that wanted to travel, but the cost was prohibitive. So hopefully the live streams live up to that, and they can watch the games.
I hope so. So yeah, we will. We'll leave it there.
See you on the other side.
And we will definitely have you guys back on the other side. Lessons from Limerick and lessons from Lahti. It still works. You know, the L's are all still there. So yeah, but no, thank you very much, guys. We do appreciate it. And
thanks, Bez.
Thanks you too.
No worries. Thank you, everyone. That is the way we HN see it.